Glass is a fabulous medium. It can be worked hot or cold. It can be remelted, reheated, and reshaped. And there's probably nothing but your imagination that limits what you can do with glass.
The story of glass in Elwood is a lot like glass itself. It's a story of things which, after being broken, were then reworked over the years. It's also the story of a family of craftsmen who were limited only by their imaginations, and how they turned a potentially shattered future into a crystal clear tradition.
I made no real conscious effort to learn it. And I don't feel that there was any inherent ability or skill. It was something that, because I felt so close to it, and I was able to make some money, I just went to work.
First fired in the flames of a natural gas boom, glassmaking made Elwood famous back in the late 1800s, shortly after the discovery of the seemingly inexhaustible fuel supply. The availability of sand in central Indiana also made Elwood a natural for glassmaking. But by the 1930s, the natural gas was running out, and the handful of companies which had supplied glass products around the world eventually would close their doors. John St. Clair, better known as Pop, was the son of a glassmaker from France. During the gas boom, Pop had moved to Indiana, got a job at one of the local factories, and started a family. But by 1936, he found himself moving to West Virginia with 3 of his sons to find work in glass. One son, Joe, stayed behind to build a small glass shop in the backyard of the family home. Pop and son soon returned, and the family began operating the St. Clair Glass Works.
And so the glass paperweight was actually a new item during the late 1800s. The French, the Baccarats, and the Cliché, those companies had started producing paperweights as a collectible item, a museum piece, and only the wealthy could afford them. And so as a novelty item, as an inexpensive item, it was unusual to see paperweights. But Grandpa picked up on that technique while he was working at Macbeth Evans and began to develop and perfect those tools to produce those pieces.
There are a number of other chapters to the story of St. Clair Glass. Antique dealers are familiar with most of them, because today St. Clair Glass from Elwood is known the world over. But these days, the tradition of St. Clair Glass also carries another name, Joe Rice. Pop's grandson, he learned the craft from his uncles. Today, Joe's shop is out along State Road 28. Like Grandpa's old place, it's right next to his home. And inside, well, Pop would feel right at home.
And as you saw today, there were 5 of us working in the factory. There were 5 men working with Grandpa. And so our techniques and our style are basically identical to the way Grandpa started in 1938. His big, Pop's or Grandpa's big scheme was being able to produce the glass in quantities to keep the cost down. And so he basically perfected the production technique that we use today.
Produced in quantity, and yet each made by hand. Today, Joe and his team of craftsmen are busy making decorative Christmas trees. The holiday season comes but once a year. Hard work is just another family tradition that's been handed down to Joe. But for this 3rd-generation glassmaker, the reason he works such long hours is also, like the glass itself, crystal clear.
It just gives us, and it gave them great pleasure to be able to produce something that people enjoyed. When people come in and they go gaga or whatever over the glass and take it back home, that's the most enjoyable part of it. We've always loved what we're doing, and we feel that we're pretty good at it. We always try to get better, but just the thought of making other people happy, that's been one of the biggest joys and comforts in this day-to-day grind, 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and all that work goes to make people happy.